Had Tom known 6 months ago that he would be sitting in this pristine corporate office, dressed in his best suit and potentially on the verge of a life-changing opportunity, he might have worried less about his future. The morning light streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows bathes the room in a gentle glow, creating an almost ethereal atmosphere that makes the glass table before him shimmer like a pool of possibilities. Mr. Gray, a veteran in the industry with over 2 decades of experience, finds himself intrigued by the young candidate sitting across from him. Throughout his career, hundreds of prospective employees have passed through these doors, but something about Tom's application struck a chord. Perhaps it was the way his resume had been meticulously crafted, or maybe it was the genuine enthusiasm that radiated from his cover letter, like a breath of fresh air in the often stagnant pool of corporate applications. You know what they say, Mr. Gray begins, adjusting his light blue tie while reaching for his glasses. Experience is the best teacher, but it can also be the strictest. The sunlight catches his gray hair, creating a distinguished silver halo effect that matches his carefully chosen words. Tell me, Tom, what has been your most valuable learning experience thus far? Ms. White, who had been contemplating her own journey while organizing papers in her black folder, looks up with interest. If the walls of this office could talk, they would tell the story of her own interview 3 years ago, a story that mirrors Tom's current situation in many ways. She had been equally nervous, equally hopeful, and just as determined to prove herself. Tom takes a moment to gather his thoughts, his reflection visible in the spotless glass table. Had he been asked this question in his previous interviews, he would have given a textbook answer about professional development. But something about this moment, perhaps the genuine interest in Mr. Gray's experienced eyes or Ms. White's encouraging presence, inspires him to dig deeper. I used to believe that success was like climbing a ladder, Tom begins, choosing his words carefully. But over the past 5 years, I've learned it's more like navigating a river. Sometimes you need to go with the flow, and other times you have to paddle against the current to reach your destination. Ms. White finds herself nodding appreciatively at the metaphor. She had been thrown in at the deep end when she first started, but that baptism by fire had shaped her into the professional she is today. That's an interesting perspective, she remarks, making notes in her folder. How would you apply that thinking to our company's current phase of rapid growth? The question hangs in the air like morning mist, waiting to be cleared by Tom's response. Had he not spent countless evenings researching the company's trajectory, he might have fumbled for an answer. Instead, he feels prepared, though butterflies still dance in his stomach. Your company reminds me of a growing tree, Tom responds thoughtfully. Each new project branches out into new opportunities, but the strength lies in the roots, the foundation of experience and expertise you've built over the years. If I were to join your team, I would hope to contribute both to maintaining those strong roots and helping new branches flourish. Mr. Gray removes his blue glasses, placing them deliberately next to his smartphone on the glass table. In all his years of conducting interviews, he has rarely encountered such a well-crafted analogy. That's quite insightful, he acknowledges, exchanging a meaningful glance with Ms. White. But let me play devil's advocate for a moment. If you hadn't succeeded in your current role, would you still have pursued this opportunity? The question is a curveball, but Tom doesn't let it throw him off balance. Even if I hadn't achieved all my goals in my current position, I would still be here today, he answers with quiet confidence. In fact, my setbacks have taught me as much as my successes. They've been stepping stones, not stumbling blocks. Ms. White's own experience resonates with this sentiment. She remembers the projects that hadn't gone as planned, the presentations that could have been better, and how each challenge had ultimately contributed to her professional growth. "Could you give us a specific example?" she asks, her blonde hair catching the morning light as she leans forward with interest. Tom shares a story about a project that had initially seemed straightforward but had evolved into a complex challenge. He describes how he had burned the midnight oil to ensure its success, not because it was expected, but because he had taken ownership of the outcome. The glass windows of the office reflect his animated expression as he speaks, creating multiple versions of his enthusiasm. Mr. Gray, who has been taking detailed notes, pauses to reflect. Had they interviewed Tom last year when they first began their expansion, things might have been different. But now, with the company at a crucial growth point, his combination of experience and adaptability seems particularly valuable. The interview continues to flow naturally, like a well-orchestrated symphony where each question and answer builds upon the previous one. Topics range from technical expertise to team dynamics, from problem-solving approaches to future aspirations. Throughout the conversation, the morning sun continues its journey across the sky, casting ever-changing patterns through the windows onto the glass table. As the interview draws to a close, Ms. White poses one final question: if you could design your ideal work environment, what would it look like? Tom glances around the sophisticated office space, taking in the modern chairs, the professional atmosphere, and the stunning city view. "It would look a lot like this," he answers honestly. "But more than the physical space, it's the environment of growth and collaboration that attracts me. A place where, as you said earlier, Mr. Gray, experience is the best teacher." The subtle callback to Mr. Gray's earlier comment doesn't go unnoticed. Had anyone been watching from outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, they would have seen three professionals engaged in a conversation that transcended the typical interview format. It had become a meeting of minds, a sharing of perspectives, a glimpse into possible futures. As Tom stands to leave, Ms. White hands him her business card. "We'll be in touch by the end of the week," she says warmly. "Thank you for sharing your journey with us today." Walking toward the door, Tom feels as though he's leaving a different person from the one who entered. The butterflies in his stomach have transformed into a quiet confidence, much like a caterpillar emerging from its chrysalis. Behind him, Mr. Gray and Ms. White exchange knowing looks, the kind that speak volumes without words. The glass table reflects the scene one final time, three people whose paths have crossed on this sunny morning, each carrying their own stories, hopes, and dreams. Whether these paths will continue to intertwine remains to be seen, but one thing is certain: this interview has left an indelible mark on all three participants.